going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is episode 152 in year 3. And man, oh man, we're going to tell you right now, we didn't watch Harley Quinn again. It is just, I'm sorry, okay? It's just, we're trying to record these as early as possible because we both got things to do nowadays. And Harley Quinn comes out the day that we record. So it's just really bad. So we'll probably do a season review, if anything, unless we catch up and then we're like, hey, let's talk about it at some other point. But if you're coming for the Harley Quinn reviews, unfortunately, we haven't watched it. So I haven't even watched last week's episode. Have you watched last week's episode?
Nope.
Yeah, I haven't watched last week's episode either. But we have a lot of stuff to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to start off with the only comic review that we have for this week, which is going to be Deceased. There is other Batman comics, which like I Am Batman, and I think there's like Future State Gotham or whatever the book is called, but we haven't been covering those for a long time. And of course, Urban Legends didn't have anything great, but I believe it did have a story from Teenie Howard and her husband. I didn't read it.
It was a Batman and Robin story.
Yeah.
I was kind of searching to see if there was anything that might be interesting.
Yeah.
There was a Batman Etrigan story that I do plan on going back to read probably at the end of today.
Yeah.
But there just wasn't enough time throughout my week to get any of these books really read. I read Deceased literally when you texted me and was like, hey, I could record it in like an hour if you're good to go. I was like, oh,
okay.
shit.
Yeah. I read Deceased last night, like at 2 a.m. I was like,
Nice.
fuck, I have not read any books. Luckily, we only had one. But yeah, I do want to mention before we dive into this review, if you guys have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please go subscribe to Batman News Weekly. We're trying to get the numbers up over there because YouTube does not let you monetize anything until you get to 1,000 subscribers. But I also want to make the announcement that starting this week, this episode, Batman News Weekly will be watchable on that. You're not going to see our faces. I mean, you might see my face every once in a while if I'm depending on the footage I'm using, but we are now going to start having gameplay in the background of our audio. So you won't be hearing the games playing, but you'll be able to watch the games playing. And it's usually stuff from my live streams. Clay's going to be submitting some stuff of whatever he's playing, and it'll be interchangeable. So you'll be able to watch something while listening to the podcast if that's something you want to do. But yeah, go subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. But let's go ahead and dive into Deceased. What is the full title here?
So this one is Deceased: War of the Undead Gods.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this?
Man, Kara has a shit life in this universe.
Yeah, her parents sucked. I was like, damn, how did they not even like?
They were like, oh, there's no way Jor-El would send his son to like such a horrible place. He didn't send his son to freaking New Genesis.
Yeah.
So in the destruction of course, Krypton, Kara's parents ship her off, and she lands on New Genesis at the time where the anti-life equation is already taking over. Yeah. And she gets bombarded by the new gods and immediately turns into a zombie.
Yeah.
Like right after the destruction of her own planet, she gets turned into a zombie.
You got to imagine that, like, what do you think of your parents at that moment, you know? Because your first thought has to be like, 1, what the fuck's going on? How am I going to survive this? And 2, why the fuck did my parents send me here?
Yeah, and like at this point, she literally has just landed. She has no idea about her powers or anything.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know that she could fight these people off at like a distance or anything.
Yeah.
She is just like, oh shit, get away from me. What's going on? And then they continue to just rip her face apart.
Yeah, it was pretty bad luck for her. But, and this is something, dude, I don't even remember the ending of the last book. I didn't know they found a cure.
Yeah, so they found the cure, and the last pages of the second Dead Earth, I think, or Dead Planet, it was. We saw that Darkseid was infected with the anti-life equation. That was literally the last page.
Okay.
Now, here, again, I think I love Tom Taylor as a writer, but there's just sometimes where he's just like, I want to go cheesy throughout the entire book. And I'm just
the Batman
why?
Part?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm Batman.
Terrible.
I'm Batman. Oh, it's because I'm Batman. Oh, I'm Batman. I'm like, God damn it.
Nobody ever does it in a cool way anymore.
No.
It's always cheesy. Like, you have to have Batman getting his ass beat and then somebody being like, why do you get up? Like, why do you keep rising? And he's like, because I'm Batman. You know what I mean? Like, but bloody and beat up, like fucking, just ready to go.
Instead, Damian is like, oh, I'm coming with you to the center of the fucking sun. And John is like, no, you're human. You can't stand it. He's like, no, I'm Batman.
Yeah.
It's okay. So what are you going to do? Oh, I'll just dress from warm weather. Oh, so you're saying you'll wear bat shorts? Exactly. Because I'm Batman. And then like Cassie gets in on it too. I'm just like, God damn it, Tom Taylor. Like, I understand. He has a very big spectrum of things that he could write.
Yeah.
He writes children's cartoons. He writes because he has a show on Netflix.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he writes for a show on Netflix.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He writes adult stuff as well, and then he has this stuff, and I'm just like, I understand your range, but please don't mix it too much. Because I can understand when people want to have like a happy moment in comics.
Yeah.
This, like, we are brand new to this series as far as the third book of this trilogy, I'm assuming. But like, get us warmed up to the idea of what everybody's about to do.
Should never be comic relief. Ever.
No.
Ever. And if he ever does anything, it should be one joke and it should be dry as fuck. Yeah. So, like, you just don't use him as comedy relief. And, Tom Taylor is just one of those writers that can't write Batman. Not well, at least.
It's a shame.
Yeah. And, like, I think he's done, like, he's done a couple good Batman moments, but he can't write it long term.
Do you know what I think he can write?
What?
Ironically, Alfred.
Oh, yeah. He writes Alfred very well.
He wrote the Father's Day annual in Tom King's run, which was great. And then this moment here in this book is great. I enjoyed it. Now, the thing that I didn't like, so we and this was freaking spoiled for me. Clark is back. They save Superman, but the moment he comes back, Lois goes, Smallville. Like, that's not what she would say. She would say his name. Mm-hmm. That was weird. Of course, they cured Pa Kent.
Pa Kent,
which was cool. But then I really love this moment with Alfred.
Yeah,
because he's seeing everybody being cured, and he is heartbroken. Like, he's like, I killed my sons when we could have saved them.
Yeah,
and I thought that was a good moment.
That was a really good moment, and Damian's being like, you couldn't have known. Like, you did the right thing in that moment. And he was like, it doesn't matter. I pulled the trigger. And that was the biggest line, is because he knew Batman's, like, rule. You know what I mean? Batman would have never pulled the trigger. And so, like, it's really unfortunate, like, for Alfred, And it's just one of those things that just goes, it shows you how impactful Batman's morals and ideals impact everybody around him. You know what I mean? Because before Batman, Alfred was a soldier. So he killed people all the time.
Yeah.
So, like, seeing how big of an impact Bruce has made on him, it just leads that much more to the story, which is why I tell everybody that thinks Batman should kill, they can go fuck themselves, because they just don't know the character.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, bro, come on. But overall, I will have to say that, like, I enjoyed the story. I was so confused about the fucking cure. I was like, I do not remember that at all. I know that they were, like, saying that Cyborg had the possible stuff in him, but I don't remember them ever, like, straight up getting it.
I remember the whole thing was when Green Arrow, when Oliver Queen got infected, and Green Canary
and they showed that.
Yeah, and refused to, like, kill him.
Yeah.
So she's like, I'm going to find a cure. And that's when they had the discussion with zombied out freaking Wonder Woman about the cure.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. I'll have to go back and read it to see if it all makes sense. But
killing Cyborg. Didn't that happen? When they were trying to get the cure, she's the one that killed him, if I'm not mistaken?
No, he's still alive.
Is he?
Yeah, he was there near the sun telling John, hey, just make sure to...
I thought he got, like, cut in half or something.
Yeah, but I think what they're playing around with is, like, he's a cyborg, so you can just, like... weld him back together, I guess.
I guess so. Yeah, I was very confused because it's been so long. This is
Yeah.
going to be 8 issues. He hasn't hit the landing on any of these. So I'm curious on how this will end. I mean, it'll be a good ride all the way to the end, and we'll see if he lands it. But if they're curing everything now, what do you do going forward? Like, I mean, he has to end it after this, right? It has to be over.
I would want it to end because, again, you don't want to beat a dead horse.
Yeah.
Like, and I understand this is all zombies and stuff, but like, as a friend of mine would say, the zombie vampire craze ended freaking 6 years ago. Is what he believes. But here is fucking DC with like, oh, let's make zombies and vampire books.
Yeah. Granted, they've been good. Well, the first runs.
Yes.
I don't think the vampire book should run after these first 12, but has that already been announced to get a sequel?
Not a sequel, but I did tell you that story with Deathstroke and Azrael is 6 issues. So that's the first miniseries attached to the main maxi series.
I wonder if that whole series just leads up to Bruce being brought back.
I could see it happening.
You know, him having to put down his son instead of Batgirl, maybe. Although I think you have to have Batgirl put him down. Like, you had that sexual tension the whole fucking time. Like, she should be the one to put him down. But you know what might happen that I really don't want to happen? She becomes the queen of vampires with him. And I don't want that to happen. And then Bruce comes back and he has to put down his kids. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then it could be like dead Bruce and fucking vampire Robin going after the fucking king and queen. Like, I could see that happening. I don't want that to happen, but we'll see. Whatever. Overall, this Deceased book was it was a good read. It was a good read. I was confused through a lot of it. Did think the whole Kara stuff was fucked though. I was like, damn, that's so fucked up. And the Alfred moment was really good as well. But yeah, the Batman crap was cheesy as hell. I was just like, come on, man. And I just don't think Damian would ever be like that. You know what I mean?
It's so weird because I mean, you have to remember this is now a Damian that was not raised by Batman. It was raised by Alfred.
True. That I'll give you that. But it's like he's still a dick though,
Yeah, he's still Damian.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think people can get better and have a turnaround. I mean, I guess he's still so young too. So I guess I'll concede on this, but I just feel like it didn't feel like Damian, and he is kind of just goofy. But the Batman stuff was kind of weird. Do you think one of the 3 die in this story?
I could see.
They can't kill Superman again, right?
No, they can't kill. They can't kill.
So John dies.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe Cassandra, maybe, or Cassie.
Yeah.
Is the Wonder Woman. Cassandra is the
Black Adam.
Is the
Shazam, I guess.
Yeah, Shazam of the new Justice League. Yeah.
I forgot how cool Green Canary was. Like, she's pretty badass. And you know what? When is that Green Hood story supposed to come out?
I believe because we had a Green Lantern. Like, remember how there was a Superman without the Justice League? There was a Green Lantern one this week.
Okay.
I still need to read that.
I haven't read that.
But I think the Red Hood story should be coming up fairly soon.
Yeah. Because I want to see if that's going to be interesting or not. Because I think sometimes random characters becoming Green Lanterns is pretty cool. I will say the times that Batman has done it, besides when he was the evil Batman, because I know he's been like a Yellow Lantern before, I've never really cared. Honestly, I think the only one I would be interested in is if he became a Red Lantern. But I just don't think the color aesthetic from all the rings, they just don't go with Batman. I just don't feel like it fits.
I could, Blue Lantern.
Black.
You get the blue cowl.
True, but I feel like blue would fit Nightwing way more than it would fit Batman.
Yes.
So I just don't know, because like I know that it's like everybody always talks about how he has a ring or whatever, in case he needs it, like a Yellow Lantern ring. But he used it in the comics once, and I don't think he looked cool. It didn't look great, in my opinion.
Yeah, it did this like weird like bat construct like
Yeah.
from his chest all the way out to his shoulders, and it just looked weird. It looked
Yeah.
like shoulder pads.
I mean, maybe if Dan Mora draws it, then maybe it would be interesting. But it would depend on how he
Probably.
does it, you know? But yeah, either way, I do think other characters becoming lanterns is pretty interesting. I do think Red Hood, I would love to see a story where he's able to overcome the rage of the Red Lantern ring, but it's a part of him still, you know?
Yeah.
Like at least if it was for a story arc, it would be interesting. Or not even a story arc, but a good run. Cause like I feel like he's been he's a good character, but it's always like always on the border of good and evil. Like he can never just pick. And it's like, bro, just be good, make him go fight in space and shit. Like, you know, or just do something different. But yeah, anyways, that is all we have for comics this week, ladies and gentlemen, because there wasn't a lot to talk about. But we do have a lot. Do we want to go to viewer questions now?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do viewer questions right now.
Yeah, let's knock out viewer questions, and then we have a bunch of content to talk about. Apologies now if Clay gave you epilepsy or a seizure this week in the Discord because his freaking GIF, oh my god, I was gonna delete it, but you had it connected to the whole thing.
I was thinking about deleting it and then reposting everything and then
Yeah.
just doing a GIF separately, but
It was
mean, it's
blinding. Yeah. So like I was just like holding it over my phone. I was like, I need more people to comment because I don't want to see this shit. But yeah, it was blinding. But we do have a bunch of our topics from this week for sure that we're gonna be talking about. But what do we got? Do we have anything on the YouTube? I haven't checked.
Let's double check. I have not checked YouTube yet.
Because I know we have
again,
like
guys,
3
like
or
Juice
so.
said, subscribe to Batman News Weekly.
Yep.
So let's see here. We got some comments here. Nathan says, what DC character besides Harley would you like to see in Joker 2?
Scarface. Scarface is always somebody I just want to see in movies because I feel like it should be so easy to do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And if it's gonna be a dancing puppet,
well, I just think like ventriloquism is like such an interesting concept. Like I get entertained by ventriloquist all the fucking time.
Yeah. Did you have the creepy guy in in elementary? What's his face? Oh my god. Nacho something. I don't know if you ever had it because you didn't live in the city, right?
No, I mean I grew up in and around the city. Mm-hmm. We moved a lot, so I was in the city in middle school.
What was his name? He was named, dude. Because like I was weary of puppets growing up.
Dude, like I mean, like anything with like porcelain, like the eyeballs and stuff. Like it always freaked me out.
Yeah. Because I remember R.L. Stein's The Puppet or whatever it was called. I don't think it was called The Puppet. It was called something else.
But I know exactly which puppet you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, that freaked me out. But there was this ventriloquist that would come to our elementary school every year, and his name was like Nacho something. And he would just be like, wah, wah, wah. Like he was really good. But it was creepy though. And I was like, that doll's alive. You know what I mean? Like it was so I love the idea of ventriloquism, and people have gotten really good with it over the years. Like they're just like holy crazy. But like with the movie magic, you can have that amazing that amazing thing of like having the ventriloquist or the dummy actually have a different voice. Like I think it was who was it? Was it Kid Stu who said Al Pacino as the voice?
Estrada.
Yeah, Nacho Estrada. He was fucking fire. I don't know if he's still alive anymore though. I hope he is.
I mean, there's a video of him in 2018. So
okay, that was before COVID though. So COVID kind of puts markers on everything. But I think it was Kid Stu who said, was it Al Pacino as the ventriloquist and then the dummy as De Niro or vice versa? Like that would have been fucking fire.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know, that's great. But yeah, I would love to see Scarface, in my opinion. Because like we've seen everybody else. I don't care about Scarecrow and all these other fucking people. You know?
No, I mean, because again, just because of the world that Joker 2 is in, you can't have anything too fantastical.
Yeah.
I think Scarface is right there. You could probably have somebody like the Mad Hatter there, but
Yeah, I mean, especially if it's going to be all in Arkham. Well, I mean, we're going to be in Arkham and dealing with delusions. So, like, they could introduce pills into it, and maybe the pills make them hallucinate so we can get a little bit more fantastical if we
yeah,
want, you know? And if the rumors are true that a majority of it is going to take place in Arkham, then it has to be their imaginations or their hallucinations being really crazy, you know? Do
yeah.
you think how are they going to film it? Because obviously Joker and Harley are not going to be together. Or you think they're going to be like next door neighbors and talking through the walls or like across the way? I'm curious on how it's going to be.
I could see it being like you have that plus you have like, oh, it's time for your activity hour, and everybody's
Yeah.
like in a room together, and they like over time get to know each other or like send messages to each other or something like this
Yeah, yeah,
until
yeah,
they finally snap or whatever.
for sure. I wonder if since this is going to be in an asylum and we know that oh my god, what's the director's name? Todd Phillips?
Yeah.
I wonder if he's gonna like pull from like One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest or whatever, that old Jack Nicholson movie. I don't know
Oh
if you've
yeah.
ever seen it. It's a really good movie. But that's in an asylum the whole time. But I think it's because he's a criminal and he's faking being mentally ill. But spoilers alerts, he gets fucked up in the end. So because he's pretending for too long. Good movie. But yeah, so that's what I would go with.
Yeah, for sure.
Is the Scarecrow stuff.
Raphael says
Scarecrow,
about
Scarface.
Alfred.
Yeah.
Do you have any comic that you may or may not have liked, but you feel that his participation in that comic was excellent?
That I didn't like?
Yeah, was there ever a comic, of course, Batman related, that you didn't necessarily like, but you liked Alfred in it?
I don't know. I feel like that question, that person just read year one and just so happens to like the Alfred version. Not year one, but Earth one. And just so happens to like that version of Alfred. And I hate that version of Alfred.
I was just about to say, I wonder if he's thinking about Earth
Yeah.
One,
No, I hate that
it,
version.
I can't speak for anything past the 90s really,
Mhm.
because I've only read bits and pieces of 80s and 70s stuff from Batman. But before then, we had never seen Alfred that like kicked ass.
Yeah.
So when we got Earth One from Jeff Johns, it was a pretty big change for me, and I was like, okay, I get it, but I feel like it kind of deters from who the character is supposed to be
Yeah.
to Bruce.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't mind reading early year Alfred stories when he was essentially James Bond. I
Yeah.
don't like reading like later on, like when he meets Bruce. After he meets Bruce, I don't want that Alfred. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I want him to have changed his whole life because of Bruce. You know what I mean? Or because of the Waynes, I should say.
Like, I wouldn't mind, because I can't remember where we were reading it, but there was a story that like Alfred was having to like get in contact with some of his old contacts,
yeah.
because, and I'm pretty sure Batman was like dealing with stuff in Russia, and then
Is
Alfred
it the
was
one where there was like this character trying to fight Batman and kill Batman? He was trying to figure out why, like, who this person is because he had like a tie to them somehow.
I think
Because
so.
that, if I'm not mistaken, that is Snyder's run on All Star Batman, and I kind of like that Alfred a little bit.
Okay, because All
Yeah.
Star Batman was not great.
No, and it wasn't. So that's why I kind of like that Alfred story a little bit. So that would be my pick. But
I think my pick would have to be, you know what? Honestly, I think Deceased. Like, the book was not excellent, but
yeah.
I think like just with this story that we read, and even I know you didn't read much of it, but there was during the shutdown,
Hmm.
for uh like the digital only era of
Yeah.
comiXology, they had done some stuff in between for Deceased, and there was a lot of Alfred in there, which
Oh yeah.
I thought was pretty good.
That's cool. Yeah, I wish I would have been able to sit here and be like, "Oh, the Pennyworth book is good," but it was written
That
so
was so
bad.
confusing.
Yeah, then, now, 5 years ago, like, it was I know Clay did not like Killing Time, but it was a million times worse than Killing Time.
God damn, yes, it was.
That was bad. By the way, we don't have this in our notes, but Pennyworth is getting a season 3, and it is
Dude,
now called The Origin of Batman's Butler.
so just
Bro.
real quick, because somebody said, "What the hell is going on at WBD?"
Yeah.
And I said, "It's a meme come to life," because we have always said, and I've always heard from other comic book readers, that the census at DC is it's not going to survive unless Batman is involved.
Yeah.
And so for them to be doing this in real life and putting Batman's name in a title that does not belong there,
Yeah.
I think is actually really hilarious.
Yeah, it is definitely the comics brand jumping to cinema. To be fair, though, I have heard the show is good. So I haven't watched any of it.
I haven't watched any of it either.
And the first season looked interesting. And I hear it's not made by WB. So, like, because it was on one of those weird ass, like, streaming services that was trying to be up and coming, like Pixie or some crap. And now it's going to be on HBO Max. So, interesting. But yeah, I don't know. So maybe I'll check it out because the origins of Batman's Butler. It's just such a bad name. It's so bad. But I mean,
I saw so many people were like, "I'm not calling it that" after 2 seasons.
yeah, for sure. I would do the same thing. But if you were directing the show and they were like, "Hey, this is the only chance of you possibly getting a season 4," you probably just bite the bullet. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So, but what do you do here? Is everybody going to expect to see baby Bruce Wayne grow up and become Batman now?
Oh,
You
God,
know
I
what I
hope
mean?
not.
We're going to just have like it's going to get to like season 5 and 6 and it's going to be young Bruce, so we're just going to have him be the butler the whole time. Is it going to be a
Well,
butler and Bond at the same time?
minor spoiler, I guess. I do know that Alfred has already met, like via season 1, has already met both Martha and Thomas.
But he's not the butler right now, is he?
No,
Okay.
but he's met them both.
Yeah. Yeah. Although it would be funny if he was the butler, but a secret agent, but he's also doing Bond shit. So he's like in Wayne Manor, like fucking bitches and then killing people. Like that would be kind of crazy. Like I'd be like, hell yeah, Alfred, bro. Hell yeah. Like so maybe give me that HBO and maybe I'd be interested. That'd be funny. But
Jesus. One
anyways,
of
what
our
else you got?
last, I think, it's Young on YouTube is saying, well, technically, Marvel had a Latino superhero before Namor in Black Panther, with Moon Knight played by Oscar Isaac, who is Latino.
Yeah, true. But I think when we were talking, we were referencing before Endgame.
Yes.
I don't think we specifically said that, but I'm just letting you know the mindset was before Endgame.
Well,
Because
because
that was
like
a
the big
10-year
thing,
span.
the big thing was the like female representation of superheroes, and
Yes.
we finally got Black Widow after Endgame.
Yes.
When she was introduced, like in the second phase or the first phase,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
technically the second phase.
Only reason why I saw Iron Man 2. Well, I mean, I saw a little bit because I liked Iron Man 1, but I actually didn't even see Iron Man 1 in theaters. Like I saw that like at home. And then I was
Oh,
like,
really?
Scarlett Johansson's in Iron Man 2. Let me watch Iron Man 1. And then
Nice.
so it was because of Black Widow. So yeah. All right. So that was it for YouTube.
For YouTube.
Okay,
Now on
cool.
the Discord, the first question comes from Young.
Yeah, so Young got like 3 things here. If I'm not, oh no, he just said he liked the seizure give.
The one question that he has,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a troll question or not. What are your guys' thoughts on Ezra Miller? Do you think they're a cool guy, or like? I honestly, the thing is, there has been so many conflicting reports on everything that they have been doing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what is real anymore.
Well, the one thing people are not paying attention to is when these incidents have happened. They
Yes,
all
like
happened in the same window of time.
Yes.
And he just recently got charged for one of them.
Yeah.
So
because
I think
that's our fucking system.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people need to pay more attention to that. but that doesn't grab headlines, you know? Ezra Miller finally charged for something he did 5 months ago. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't grab headlines. So they just make it seem like it just happened. And of course, people on Twitter don't know how to read that well. So they don't do anything. They just go off the headline and they don't read articles. They don't do research. And yeah, I've seen people being like, oh my God, look at this. Like, get rid of this fucking movie and blah, blah. I'm like, dude, WB is legitimate. We'll talk about this more later, but I was like, they legitimately told you we sunk $200 into this. It's fucking coming out, you know,
and it has come out to it possibly being closer to 300 million.
Yeah.
So
So we'll get into it more later, but so there's that.
Bats says, do you think this DC 10-year plan is going to be a revival of the Snyderverse or a full reboot? Guess it depends on how the Flash movie ends and gets received. Also, side note, in the Harley Quinn show, they low-key reference the Batman potentially going down on Catwoman by giving her a foot massage. Do you think they're going to just go out and say he jokes that he goes down, that he does go down on her? I personally think it would be hilarious.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of reference towards the end of the show where they say it but don't show it. You know what I mean? Just to kind of get that in there to jab at WB. But maybe Zaslav likes it now. We don't know what Zaslav's opinion on DC is going to be going forward.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it seems like he's over here saying that we're going to protect DC at all costs. So, is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. So,
now, as far as the reboot, I kind of want to suggest something.
Mm-hmm.
If you're okay with doing it, and it may, I don't know how you would personally do it, but as of right now, pertaining to his first question, we have no idea if Zaslav is wanting to relaunch, which would mean keeping everything kind of intact and then just kind of moving forward with an actual blueprint, or if it's going to be a reboot, getting rid of everything and starting over.
Yeah.
We don't know what that is yet.
I don't think you release these movies you have if you're going to reboot. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to wipe everybody clean, you know?
Yeah.
We've heard rumors that Ezra was filming some more shit over the summer.
Yeah, back in May. Yeah.
So I don't know. And Zaslav apparently, with what we saw with the Aquaman reshoots, he has no problems making sense of stories.
Yeah.
So if they need to film another quick scene saying like, oh yeah, this is the future going forward. We also heard that Black Adam just got an end credit scene that's going to put him more solidified in the universe somehow or some shit. So, or it shows what his future in the DCEU is going to be. So I don't know. It seems like we're getting extra scenes to maybe make things a little bit more cohesive. So I just don't think that they're going to reboot because like we know it hasn't been great, but the star power that the DCEU has is insane. And I don't think they want to let go of that. Like
I wouldn't.
Yeah. So I don't think they reboot. Unless you're talking about you reboot without recasting. And I don't that would
which would be a soft reboot.
Yeah, and that would be confusing. We've already done that to the audience too much.
And I would say this just because like there was people like freaking DMing me and like yelling at me and everything else because there was an individual that was commenting on some of the conversations I was having saying, oh, this is definitely going to be Zack Snyder's return. He's making his 5 movies and everything else. Guys, you need to just give it up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but Snyder is not going to come back. And if he does, it's not for his plan. It is for one movie.
Yeah. Green Arrow. That's all I'm saying. Give him Green Arrow. It would be fucking fire. As much as I don't like him as a storyteller, him as a director / like cinematographer, amazing.
Yes.
So I just don't think you let him write it. Like, don't let him write the story.
Why would you say I have a 10-year plan, but 5 of it is going to Snyder?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah. You know, the internet and the Snyder cultist movement have just showed me people will believe anything. I mean,
yes.
You know, in our country, we have people that still believe Donald Trump's the president, which is fucking crazy.
It's wild.
So, Yeah. So at this point, I think anybody will believe anything, you know? So, but yeah, it's, if that's your hope, if that's your belief that Snyder's going to come back, well, I wish you all the best, but how long are you going to let that go? I feel like the cultists are so crazy that Snyder could die and they think he would be resurrected to come back and film the Snyderverse. That's how
Oh
crazy
yeah.
they are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. I think so.
Insane.
But the Ponderer's question kind of matches up with Bats, and this is what I was going to ask of you. He
Mhm.
says, I don't know if you've already answered this question, but if you were the producer in the producer's office at WB, how would you basically do the whole 10-year plan and Batgirl and all of that?
Yeah.
So for my other show, I'm already kind of doing it, and I wouldn't mind doing it here.
Go for it.
Would you be willing to write out your 10-year plan? Not like going
Oh.
into detail, but like, hey, this is my, and I'm convinced, honestly, if it is a full reboot, I'm convinced Zaslav wants to copy paste from Marvel. Because
Okay.
he and we'll talk about this more in our topics,
Mhm.
but because we haven't talked about anything having to do with that conference call
Yeah.
for the investors, but he mentioned Kevin Feige's name like 10 times
Mhm.
when getting closer to talking about this 10-year plan.
Yeah.
Like he is in love with what Marvel and Disney and all the money that they've made, and
Yeah.
he's just like, I want that.
Yeah, well,
So
it was an investors call, so I think that's something you wanna do, right? Because you know how much money Kevin
buzzwords.
Feige, has made for, and if they're like, "Oh, they're doing what they're doing, what Disney did," like, "Yeah, I wanna invest in this, I wanna invest in this," you know what I mean? So, I do say it's a little bit of buzzwords because Zaslav seems like a businessman, and
Yeah.
businessmen know what to say in those meetings, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's why Vince McMahon was able to put on a shit product for so long in the WWE because he knows
Yeah.
how to, that show was so shitty and they were still making billions of dollars every year. It's been decent the last few weeks though, since Triple H took over though. But that's just for the wrestling fans out there. Anyways, yeah. So you're saying write a 10-year plan for like the next show?
Yeah.
If you remind me, I'm
Well,
definitely.
not for the next show. I will say when we get an update on what this 10-year plan is, whether it be a
Mhm.
relaunch or a reboot.
Yeah.
Once we get that, that's when we will work on our 10-year plan. I'm kind of doing it beforehand because, like I said, I think it's a copy paste. So I literally went on Disney Plus and looked at what each phase looks like,
Yeah.
and then did okay. If this is Guardians of the Galaxy, this must be Suicide Squad. Okay,
Okay.
if this is Civil War, then this must be this movie. And I literally made a 10-year plan like that for a complete reboot. But
Yeah.
it looks like egg on my face if Zaslav comes out and says, "Oh, we're not doing a complete reboot. We're still bringing back," and he announces every character and cast member coming back and saying, "We are just starting from where we left off and moving forward." You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be very interesting. I don't think this is in our stuff, but since we're kind of on the topic at the moment, and this is one of our topics essentially, since we're talking about reboot relaunch, and Zaslav's 10-year plan, I I kind of thought about this yesterday, right? Because this is gonna kind of get into I mean, we don't have Flash
Well,
on there, but I guess.
that was the end of our question. So if we want to move forward, we can go ahead and go
Yeah,
to the
so
topic.
let's just dive. I mean, this is gonna kind of cover the Flash and some other shit. But I don't know if you heard this. Well, this is something we don't have on our topics, but we were gonna include it anyway. We just found out about the Flash, and WB has 3 options that they're planning on doing with the movie, right? Like this is what we heard. The 3 options are one, you have Ezra Miller do an interview after he's done rehab and talk about what the hell's been going on the last 5 years or whatever, like explaining his erratic behavior, right? The
Yeah,
second thing is we just fucking write it out and we don't let him do press. Like it's very limited. We probably let him do like on camera stuff that we pre-record that we can
yeah,
edit, and he's not at the press junkets or anything like that. Thirdly, we scrap the movie. Thirdly, the only way that's happening is if he kills somebody. That is the only way
And
that movie is being.
we've said this before.
Yes.
And knock on wood, like we've joked about it, and that's just our dark humor.
Yeah.
But like, do you know what I immediately thought of when I saw the three options?
Mm-hmm.
I thought of Shrek's pick number 3, my lord.
Yeah,
Oh, shit.
so, but thinking about that, right? Because we've talked about it on the podcast as well, that just recast him. But it has been said that he's in the movie too much to be able to do that because he plays multiple characters. And that is the problem. And I was like, damn, this is the first time that the CW model made sense because they could easily just be like, oh, he's a different person from a different world. You know what I mean? But now he's the same. So now you're just fucked. But this is such a rare occurrence to be this fucked in a movie. You know what I mean? So
I mean, because let's be completely honest. This movie was announced as even being a concept back in 2015, 2014.
Yeah, 14 probably. Yeah.
And then it got officially announced in 2016.
Yep.
Preparing for a 2018 release. And then it got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back and pushed back and pushed back all the way until we finally got okay, it's going to come out in 2023.
Yeah.
And
Lost
now
3 directors before getting its 4th.
Yeah. And now it's even like, there
Script
may
got
be a
rewritten
chance
3-4 times. Yeah.
It may have a chance of not even existing, which is crazy to even like.
Yeah.
Again, we don't think that it will because there's too much money on the table.
And it's testing positive.
And it's testing very positive.
Yeah.
Which is wild. And that comes to the thing of like, we need to understand that Twitter and YouTube and Facebook are not real life.
Yeah.
People do not know who Ezra Miller is and what he has done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it won't be until like I think this last one, this felony charge, it finally made like I think CNN news.
Yeah.
I think people may find out about that, but then they're asking, okay, so why is this so important? And then they themselves would have to go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Everybody else is going to do it for them. So there's still going to be a disconnect between everything that's going on with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think Flash could still do very positively.
I also think the moment you see a cool Batman scene in that trailer, people are going to go watch it. You know, if it's like Ben Affleck's Batman fucking knocking the shit out of somebody, people are like, oh, Batman's in this? What? And you got to remember, because Clay is about to be this, parents are just going to take their kids to have them shut up for 2.5 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're going to have parents that are like, there's a superhero movie, you want to go watch it? And they're like, yeah. And then you go to the fucking theater for the weekend or daytime or wherever you're going to watch this. And they're, you know, because you got to remember, we're older. So superhero movies originally and always are going to be slightly geared towards the younger audience because that sells merchandise. You know what I mean? Like nowadays, I just want to buy really cool shit that I can put in places. I don't buy the toys. I don't buy all that kind of shit. So I'm buying more high-end stuff that doesn't move a lot. But they want to sell those $10, $20 toys to every kid in the world. And so, of course, they're going to gear it towards kids. They're going to put bright colors. They're going to make it look really cool. You know what I mean? So I think the moment people see Batman, their care for Ezra Miller out the fucking window. I honestly think more people are going to not see Aquaman because of Amber Heard than they're not going to watch The Flash because of Ezra Miller. I genuinely think that people will go watch The Flash more than Aquaman.
I think so.
Yeah. And they both have controversial figures in it. But one has been like, we fucking cut her out as much as possible. Like, you know, guys?
Yeah.
And they still don't care. They're like, we don't care. She was a part of it. You paid her. And I'm like, bro, like, what the fuck?
No,
like,
because then you say, okay, we've cut the Flash.
Yeah.
We've cut Ezra as much as possible. And then you just have like a YouTube video.
Yeah. It's just Batman fucking fighting. Like, what's going on with Batman? Why is he fighting himself? You know, like, all
and then you
shit.
have the Sasha Kaye stuff, but then that's it. You have and Batman scenes and Sasha
possible cameo we heard about.
Shit.
I just don't. I think once that first trailer drops, you're gonna have people be like, oh yeah, let's go watch a movie with a crazy man in it that does whatever. But the people that are be like, yeah, that was fucking awesome, that's gonna overpower everybody. So, I don't see it. I don't see them deleting this movie, getting rid of it. He would have to kill somebody. If it turns out that he is a cult leader and his farm in Vermont or whatever ends up becoming a massacre scene, it's done. They'll kill him.
Due to possible future marketing,
Yeah.
I'm looking through some of my messages that have people connected to reliable sources. It says that the budget may be somewhere near $487 million.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah. Because you're thinking about how much it costs to make the movie, and you never really, they always say add on to 100 to 150 million for marketing.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of people are like, I only saw like 2 trailers and a couple ads. What you don't realize is the billboards in cities, in Times Square, all of that kind of shit that shows his face, which a lot of this marketing is probably going to be all the other characters and not the Flash, not Ezra's face, which is going to be crazy. So yeah. It would be, which wouldn't be bad, like showing Sasha Kaye and showing like Michael Keaton and all that kind of stuff. Well, and just having the Flash in the background where you don't see Ezra Miller's face, I think would be really good.
And the thing with me is, and this may, come back to bite me later on, but like I was having a conversation with somebody. They're like, would you really want this movie canceled if that means Sasha doesn't get to be Supergirl at all? And I said, yeah, that would suck, but it's 20 minutes probably from what we are hearing. She has like a 20-minute scene fighting bad guys. I'm not going to spoil who she fights. And then like her movie was canceled. So like
as of right now, undecided from current reports.
Yes, undecided. So, and I mean, it can be undecided because they want to see how people react to Sasha.
Yeah, if people love her.
But Zaslav said, "Oh, we've seen the movie and we think we can make it better."
Yeah, but he said that for all movies, and we know that Black Adam's getting that new scene though.
He said Black Adam and Flash. He said we've seen both movies; they're both great, and we think we can make them better.
Yeah. But that can mean anything. It doesn't mean it in regards to Sasha Kaye. You know what I mean?
No. But like, what does that mean? Does it mean cutting the Flash? Does it mean cutting Ezra? Does it mean like giving people more scenes? Like, that's what I'm a little confused about. Because here's the thing that's gonna make him look like he has egg on his face. Is what if like he ends up canceling these things, these other shows, movies, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they get positive reaction on their debut. Like, he does seem like he's a guy with a little bit of an ego. Do you think he's going to backtrack what he says and be like, oh, we're going to make the show? Or like, what if it does horribly? And he said, oh, it's great. We can make it do better. And everybody's like, man, that movie was shit. Like, is he going to go back and be like, oh, well, that's the old regime. It wasn't my movie.
No, these type of men, what I've noticed is anything that does well, they just take credit for it. So he'll just accept like, oh yeah, that's what we did. And if he's like, yeah, we're going to launch more movies, it'll be like the past never happened to him. We've seen that in a lot of people that are in America, and a lot of people that just ignore facts, ignore what they've done in the past. They're like, oh yeah, no, everything's going great. Yeah, we're the best, So I think that's just what's going to happen. He's just not even going to pay attention to it. He's going to WWE it. He's going to rewrite history. And he's just going to be like, we're the best. And that's what will happen. Because at the end of the day, it's all about money. It's all that matters. So if he needs to make, if everybody comes out of that fucking movie saying Sasha Kaye is the best thing in this fucking movie, she's great, we need fucking 20 Sasha Kaye movies, they're going to fucking make it happen. Because at the end of the day, he's going to be like, fuck it, I'll take all these bitches' money. I don't care. And like, he'll make the movie. And I think that's what will happen. I know a lot of people want to jump to conclusions and all this kind of shit, but after, like, I think it's just so chaotic right now. You can't believe anything. You can't believe anything, because we heard that Canary was dead, Green Lanterns was dead, all of this shit was dead throughout the week. Green Lantern still on the table. Fucking Black Canary still in the works. Like now, it's like, okay, what the fuck do I believe? Who's real? Who's talking? Whatever, you know. Zatanna maybe still.
But the thing is, it's so funny because you your post was like, "Fucking Titans,
Yeah.
Titans is still alive.
Let's be
How is
real.
Titans better than Batgirl?"
Yeah.
But if you looked at the TV Line article, the source on Titans being safe is basically like, "Trust me, bro.
Oh,
There's
okay.
no source. There's no source whatsoever."
I hope it's deleted. So, but I mean, from some of the other ones that I'm seeing are like Screen Rant and shit like that are, you know, semi-reliable.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, okay, you know, or also CBR. Like CBR just regurgitates from other reliable sources usually. So, you know, I would be like, okay, because that is the general audience news hub, right? CBR. So I would think that there is some truth to it. But going to this Flash stuff, one thing I wanted to point out, because of the Zaslav line of we cannot replace or reshoot Ezra Miller's stuff because he's in the movie too much, I kind of wanted to point out that something I made connections with. We know that Aquaman got Ben Affleck to repraise his role, right? To take Keaton's place.
Yeah.
If they were willing to do that, and they weren't willing to do that for Batgirl, because I don't know, they said he's in it for 5 scenes, right? Like that Keaton is in that movie for 5 scenes, so they're like, we can't replace him, like, or whatever. Maybe that's not even the case. They're just like, we don't want to. Because I think you could easily have replaced him if the end of the movie was apparently both Batman and Batgirl jumping off a gargoyle together to go fight crime. So that would make so much sense if it was Ben Affleck's character. But if everything was this spaghetti western of multiverses, then you can't really replace one like you did in Aquaman. You know what I mean? But it makes me also think that I don't think that since they're not so easily to reshoot shit, I don't know if this solidifies Ben Affleck being in the future of Batman. You know what I mean? Because I feel like if they wanted to make him a bigger part of the universe, they're like, hey, we're just going to have you replace Keaton and everything in Batgirl. You know what I mean?
I don't know, because I think that the whole point of Batgirl and Keaton was to be like, hey, you got to see Keaton in the Flash. Now understand his new origin. And I think they were going to, because there was a lot of scenes with the young Gordon and young Batman.
Yeah.
I think that was supposed to be it. So I don't think Ben Affleck's Batman would have made a whole lot of sense there.
But Ben Affleck's Batman is also like, you know, in his 40s. If we're still pulling
true
Snyder's shit, you know what I mean? So like you could have had a CGI'd Batman. Like if you, I mean, Ben Affleck still looks pretty fucking great, especially now he's got that J-Lo glow. So like, you know, I think it's definitely better. And so that makes me kind of curious about maybe he's not coming back. Maybe he just did that as a favor. Because we know apparently he's really good friends with Alan Horn.
And there was a lot of speculation of, and I think we talked about this before, about him not necessarily coming back full time, but more coming back as like the cameo, the team up, the stuff that is very limited.
RDJ after Iron Man 3.
Yes.
You know, he gets paid $20 million just to do fucking cameo roles. So
exactly.
I mean, that'd be a sweet fucking deal for him, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of curious because, like, it's, you know, the way that person that was kind of just tweeting out the movie after it got, you know, shut down, I think, like, they said that Keaton wasn't even in it that much. So I feel like you could have just reshot those shots. And, you know, like, I don't think they show Catwoman. They just mention it. You can just you can ADR that or whatever, or ARD it or whatever the fuck they call that. The audio shit.
ADR.
Yeah, ADR. You could have just done that and took that line out, or just said, like, I mean, I doubt they say, yeah, Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer. You know what I mean? So, like, if they just say Catwoman, that could be anybody. So I'm curious. Like, they said, you know, I'm assuming they just thought the movie wasn't salvageable. And they were like, there's no point. Because that's what they're saying. If they scrap the Flash, it's because they can't fix it. So I figured maybe that's what they did with Batgirl as well. And if they couldn't get Affleck for that, I'm just curious.
Well, that kind of goes into our next topic with Batgirl, kind of updates on that and everything else. So with Batgirl, I have been seeing one thing that we didn't talk about was let me see if I can find the quote here actually. Somebody had said that it could be or that it was something like a TV pilot that that people watching the screener felt like they were watching a TV pilot and not a movie.
Yeah, like a bad episode of TV.
Yeah. So,
which most TV pilots are pretty bad.
They also say this. It says here, in some podcast, Screen Rant, something shared for Screen Rant, a test screener audience agreed that the film was not big enough to receive a theatrical release, describing it as something like played like a TV pilot, and even compared it to Fox's Dark Phoenix.
The fuck is that?
So it's the last X-Men movie.
Oh, I never saw that.
Neither did I.
I heard it was terrible, though.
Well, one of the reasons why I didn't watch it was the director, like, basically, of Dark Phoenix, after getting so much hate for, like, making another Phoenix movie.
Yeah.
And guys, spoilers. Like, in an interview, he was like, oh, yeah, when Jennifer Lawrence dies, blah, blah, blah. And everybody's like, what? He's like, oh, yeah, I guess I spoiled the movie. Anyway, whenever and he just says it again, and he just spoils the entire movie.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, what the fuck?
That's awesome. My movie sucks, so yeah, let me just tell you the ending. Damn. Dude, I forgot there was that's like the 5th X-Men movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But I gave up on that franchise when Apocalypse was one movie. He's the Thanos of the X-Men universe. Yeah. And they fucking gave him one movie, and that sucks because it was Oscar Isaac. So, but yeah, terrible stuff.
But like we also saw some screen grabs from the movie. There was a picture with the director, Batgirl, and Keaton in costume that we saw. I shared a picture or a post that had Killer Moth in the movie as well, and it was described as they do get the classic helmet for Killer Moth, and he is wearing the suit in the movie. So, unfortunately, we are not able to see that. And just there was a lot of Kevin Feige talked to the directors and emailed them and said, that really sucks. Congratulations on the wedding. This really sucks for what you guys did with Batgirl. Hope to see you guys soon. Basically teasing, hey, if you want to make a project here at the MCU, you can do that. They also, I think other directors from the DCEU also reached out to them as well. Leslie Grace, made some posts on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter about, how she would love to come back and everything else. I just don't know if you necessarily want to go back,
Yeah.
Like it.
I mean, if now you're guaranteed to, if Leslie Grace were to come back to be back, I understand it's hard to forgive somebody that's fucked you over, right? But she is an actress, and I'm assuming she wants to be fucking, top of the top, and especially like we need more Latina actresses, you know what I mean? Like in the spotlight. So I'm hoping that, if she's got a Latina mama, you know what I mean? That mom's like, mija, it all happens for a reason. And like she has that going on. And so mama's going to sit her down and talk to her. I mean, depending, she could have that hard ass mom and be like, no, fuck them. You know what I mean? She could have that Latina mom too. But depending on what type of Latino mom she has, she might sit her down. You gotta think about it. And if she sees the bigger picture, if they're like, we want you back, that means you're guaranteed on the big screen now instead of being on a streaming service. And I think if I'm her agent, I'm like, look, I know there's hard feelings here, but now that they did that to us and fucked us over, we can ask for a little bit more money because you're not guaranteed to get a fucking release, and this is hurting your career. So you'd be like, hey, we want some insurance, and then get that. And I think she comes back because, kind of like how Sholo is doing right now. He said a big old speech about, he was like, I know how important this is to Latinos to see a hero that looks like us on the big screen. Like, this is bigger than Sholo's career. Like, this is for the fucking people. And I was like, oh my God, bro, I love you. You're so great.
No, that video cut out right when he was about to talk about ego too. I was like, God damn it, I want to hear the rest of that interview.
Yeah. So like, I think she's the same way. And she seems very prideful, and she's taking it with stride. She says, it kind of sucks, but at the same time, like, she's like, I think she had like God is good or life is good on one of her tweets or some shit. So maybe that is one of those cryptic tweets that's like, hey, look, we're sorry we fucked you over, but we're going to bring you back. Like, this is our 10-year plan, and like, you're going to be in it. You know what I mean? Because what could happen is, if Black Canary is still happening, what if they just wrote Batgirl into Black Canary? And that's the movie.
Maybe.
Maybe you start Birds of Prey out of Black Canary, because that was originally what was supposed to happen. You know what I mean? Or we start doing this Nightwing movie, and she's just in the Nightwing movie. You know what I mean? Granted, we're not getting her origin unless you tell them at the same time. But I think the way, if she gets brought into the universe at all, it's going to be through, like, she's going to be a supporting character in a bigger movie, and then she'll branch out and get her own movie. You know what I mean? And then maybe you do flashbacks from that movie. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Her movie at the moment is the only one that got scrapped. So it's obviously going to make the biggest fucking headlines. But if Ezra's gets scrapped, then what is everybody's excuse after that? You know what I mean? Because everybody's like, Zaslav's a racist, or they don't like girls, or whatever. If they scrap the Flash, what's your excuse? Because then he's like, we're protecting the brand. Like, that is true. Like,
but like, Ezra is still considered a part of the LGBTQ plus community, and
so they're gonna protect a fucking terrible person. You know what I mean? If
they
were to come out and say that, that's just fucked.
It's very, like, at this point, you kind of have to walk on eggshells.
Yeah,
like,
I'm pretty sure the Alphabet Mafia has disowned him. Like, I don't see anybody being like, well, I know people are really big on his pronouns, or their pronouns. But like, I just don't, I don't think it's that important. Your sexuality coming to your actions is not that important, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's like, oh, he murders people, but he's gay.
Yeah, like, it's definitely not like that.
Like it's never a story like that. So when it comes to Ezra, I don't think people are saying, oh, they run a cult.
Yeah.
But at least they're a part of our community. Like, they're not saying that. So that is true.
Yeah. So I think that would shut up a lot of people if they did axe that movie. But here's my thing. If they do delete the Flash, you reboot everything. You can't do anything else after this.
So we kind of went over the 10-year plan, but what I want to go ahead and say this also. In regards to what Zaslav is saying, because a lot of people are misquoting what he said. People are saying, oh, he has a 10-year plan. In his speech, he said, we have revamped everything.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to have a 10-year plan. So he is currently making the 10-year plan right now.
Yeah.
And he quoted, he said that he is making it with Alan Horn, himself, and he hasn't named because the one big thing that came out of this investors call was that DC Studios is going to be a thing.
Yeah.
My question to you is, without a head for DC Studios, when do you think we see even the smallest piece of this 10-year plan?
Sometime in 2023.
Really? You think it's that soon?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I think they have it by Comic-Con.
I said 2025. I see Comic-Con of 2025 because they have Joker and possibly the Batman 2
Mm-hmm. But
to
those aren't
fall
part of
on.
the 10-year plan.
I know, but it is something to fall on as far as like marketing and money and like
Yeah.
feeding the fans
Yeah.
until they fix everything.
No, I think they have something by next year. And the
Wow.
reason why I say that is I think right now Zaslav is pulling in whoever he thinks is going to help. Like if Alan Horn is the guy that's going to structure it, I feel like he's pulling in somebody like a Gunn or somebody that has had success and be like, yo, how much do I got to pay you to help us plan this shit out? You know what I mean? Because Gunn,
So
we're going to talk about that right now or here in a little bit, but Gunn has
yeah,
apparently more projects in the works. When from
yeah,
our understanding, he had Peacemaker second season and something else.
yeah,
But now it seems like he has more shit.
yeah.
So I'm assuming there's no way he got more shit unless Zaslav approved it,
I would assume so. Yeah.
you know? So maybe he's all like, hey, you turned John Cena likable. So we want you in on this. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure Gunn has said something along the lines of he doesn't want to do that.
Yeah,
But we
he
also
doesn't
know
want to
money
be like
talks,
the yeah, that's
you
true
know?
too.
So, and Zaslav seems like he has no problem destroying money. So if he's got to pay somebody, I think he'll do it. You know what I mean? And he's
Yeah.
probably not even like, we don't want you to be our Feige. We want you to think like you're a comic book guy. How would you do this? You've had success. You've worked in the MCU. And if he's sucking off Kevin Feige, why wouldn't he suck off somebody that made a
Well,
really successful movie?
speaking of that, I
Mhm.
know that this would be most of our audience's worst nightmare, but I said this to, I think it was Too Young last episode with the whole thing of like, oh, well, you know, Feige almost walked to DC
Yeah.
and WB back in 2015. These are nothing but fan rumors, so don't get, you know, too scared about this. But people are actually convinced that the new Bob, not Iger, but the Chapek guy, Bob
Mhm.
Chapek, is butting heads with Feige a lot lately
Yeah.
at Disney and Marvel. So people really do think that anywhere within the next 5 years, Kevin Feige walks and he could go to DC and WB.
I'm curious on I I know a lot of people are worried about Feige coming in and making everything funny, right? Like that's my biggest fear. And I will stop watching DC movies if they became that. Like if Batman is popping jokes, because I hated it when it happened in the Justice League. Like I hated that. I'm not a fan of Batman joking. I've said that a million times. I don't care who you are. If you start making Batman just seem out of character, I'll talk shit about it. Like it's just how I am. There are certain characters that should be funny and there's certain characters that are not. I am hoping that if that were to happen, I wouldn't mind Kevin Feige's mind coming to DC,
Yeah.
but I hope WB's mentality of we want to work with creators and we want to make the best films possible and have their visions are part of that as well.
Because what a lot of the conversation is surrounding when it comes to Feige and DC, that it would be more of like, well, Chapek would probably go to one of Kevin Feige's right hands or left hands
Yeah.
and be like, hey, I think you have what it takes to run everything. Like,
Yeah.
I think we can run Feige out of town and you could do whatever. Like, you could
Yeah.
be the head of all this and kind of buttering them up and then get Feige to walk out. But just like how people who work in sports and, you know, maybe even like for me, I kind of walked out of the whole sports talk, so it's hard for me to make this comparison. But
Mhm.
like there are multiple people, let's say wrestling.
Mhm.
One comes to mind, Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
He has been in multiple things, not just WWE, right? He's
Yeah,
gone
he's in
to
AEW right now.
he's in AEW.
Yeah.
And he took what he knew from WWE, went to AEW, and has made it to what it is now, right?
Yes.
So I think Feige, because let's be completely honest, MCU has made a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
And you can't say that Feige doesn't know what he's doing.
Mhm.
I think that Feige could easily go to DC and say, hey, I can give you my creative mind and do this for you. And that would be it. You're right. I think that it would be a turn to the worst if we start seeing Batman talk like Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Like that would be the worst.
Yeah.
But I think because he is a fan of the source material, I do think he would understand most of these characters
Mhm.
and know what to do with them at least.
Yeah, yeah. I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I also just don't like that he said that if people aren't laughing every 10 to 20 minutes, like it's a bad movie or whatever he said. I'm definitely misquoting that, but it was
Yeah.
pretty much something along those lines. But I do think some people would probably do things differently. My thing is if Feige was ever gonna come to DC, I don't think that people like a Kevin Feige have to deal with contracts and tampering. Like, I think if WB was like, we want to pay you $100 million, like, he could just leave Disney. I don't think he's in a contract with them. I don't think that's how that works. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
Yeah.
like rights. Like, you don't have the rights to people. Like, there's been a lot of wrestling talk on this podcast, but like WWE and AEW, their people are under contract for 5 years or whatever. And if WWE was like, "Hey, we want that guy," it'll be considered tampering, and that's kind of how it works in professional sports. Like, you can't just be like, "Hey, the Cowboys want the best player, like Patrick Mahomes from the Chiefs," and be like, "Hey, we
Yeah.
want you to be a quarterback." Like, they'll be like, "No, that's fucking tampering," and they'll lose a bunch of shit. Like, they can get fined and all this kind of stuff. Don't know how that works in professional wrestling, but it's also the same thing. So
Yeah.
I guess they could just sue them for breaking contract or whatever. I don't think that works in the business world like Disney and WB. I think they could just poach the best creators. You know what I mean?
I saw somebody say, why can't he do both? Why
Yeah.
can't he be the
Yeah.
executive producer for both WB and Marvel? I was like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I think if Feige were to take over DC and make it an exact copy of Marvel and everybody's funny, like everybody's just funny, that's when we kill. I mean, we're already feeling the fatigue now, but I think that's what would kill the superhero genre. But then you would see a clamoring for like more shit like The Boys on the big screen.
Yeah.
And I think that's what would happen. People would be like, we just want fucking dicks and butts and people getting exploded. Like, that's what we want. So yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be as scared if Feige came, but I would judge him on the first phase that he does.
Yeah.
But you gotta remember, if
And
he comes in
I don't
5
want
years,
I
he's
don't want
rebooting.
phases in DC, by the
Yeah.
way. I need something like chapters or book or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, I
Arc
need something
1.
different. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So we'll go for that. So yeah, that's on Batgirl. I mean, speaking of all that, it was pretty much confirmed that we were gonna have a crisis event before Zaslav took over.
Yeah, so it's come out like a lot of stuff with Hamada has come out with
Yeah.
in the sense of like uh he was very pissed off at Batgirl being canceled and all of this stuff, and he's even said like, oh, once Black Adam is out, I'll probably quit. Well, the executive producers that are looking over DC films right now, Abney and DeLuca, they've come out to say, hey, we like what Hamada has done with DC films
Yeah.
and we want him to stay. Uh, and there has actually been some numbers crunched. Hamada has technically made more money for WB under DC films than people before him.
Yeah.
And that can be $1 billion less or more because it's really dependent on whose success it is for Aquaman.
Mm-hmm.
Because he kind of came in like 2 weeks before the movie came out. But with that, it's come out that he was planning this crisis story, and we've gone over this before. We heard these rumors, and we're like, okay, how do they do it? What's really going to be the plan for this? And now that it's been confirmed, there seems to be a lot more people that are understanding of like, well, why couldn't they just do it? Like, why can't they just keep going with it? And I think more so it's because these projects are in limbo
Yeah.
and may or may not be canned or, put off to something else. Batgirl completely canceled and stuff like that. So like, how do you feel for it to be confirmed now? Like, do you still want a crisis this soon? Do you want a crisis to even happen now? Like, how do you feel about it?
I don't think you go Crisis. I mean, I didn't even want Flashpoint to happen in the first Flash. I think it's such a stupid idea, you know? But I knew that they were doing it to reset the universe.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just like, all right, bro, you know, fucking go for it. And if they were going to do a Crisis to make everything work again because we were going to have like 12 Batmen, I was like, just fucking do it. Like, I don't care. Like, you know what I mean? I essentially, as a DC fan, I'm just kind of defeated at the moment. Like, I don't like the Batman. I have high hopes for Joker too. Like, if it is going to be a musical, like, I hope it's how I envision it because that would be awesome. But everything else is just kind of like, I don't care because it's so like up in the air at the moment. You know what I mean? Like, they just canceled Batgirl, which was the one movie I was looking forward to. But maybe that, you know, if it is as bad as some people are saying, maybe they just saved me from hating that movie. Because then maybe I would have just been done with DC at that point. Like, there's nothing I like. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I might like Aquaman. I didn't have a problem with the first Aquaman. I like the first Aquaman. But I'm just kind of like, you know, where's it going to lead to? You know, because at the moment it's just what are we building to? And it sucks because I would argue DC has better events than Marvel when it comes to comics. You know, Crisis, the fucking what was the Green Lantern event called?
Blackest Night.
Yeah, Blackest Night, fucking, you know, all that kind of shit that they have, I think is amazing. But and if you wanted to do the branching off of like the vampires and bullshit to do Elseworld stuff, I think that's really cool. I just think DC has so much better stories. Not saying Marvel doesn't have good ones, but I think DC just has more interesting and cool shit that would look amazing on the big screen. But I don't know if we'll ever get there, which fucking sucks. Yeah. Because I think if we had a solidified thing like Marvel at this point, if like let's just say Marvel and DC started at the same time and they had the same fucking success, right? Like, so we're into what, phase 5 at this point if we were in DC?
Yeah.
I think right now I think the first end game would have been Crisis, right? Like Final Crisis, something maybe like that. Maybe that would have been the second big event, whatever this Avengers 4 is going to be or whatever the hell they're calling it. 5 would be Avengers 5 at this point. Maybe that would be the Crisis event. But I think we would have had like, you know, Flashpoint might have probably been one of the first Avengers or one of the like the Endgame or Infinity War. I think that's probably what would have happened to really change it up, and you could have that war scene and kind of all that kind of shit. So maybe that would have been the first big event is Flashpoint, because then we would have had probably like 3 Flash movies by then, you know. So I think Flashpoint would have probably been the big event, and then since the Earth and everything's kind of fucked after Flashpoint, you could go on and then do the Final Crisis as the next Avengers, and so like. And I think right now we'd probably be getting a bunch of TV shows and stuff that's maybe is like Blackest Night, right? Or the fucking zombie ones or whatever. Like, I think we would be getting random what if stories. And I think that would be kind of awesome. But at this point, we're probably going to be in our 40s before we get anything like that if we're lucky, you know?
Well, especially that's why I was surprised when you said, oh, we'll probably see something next Comic-Con. I was expecting to not hear anything until 2025 and then see actual like footage of this first phase or whatever 10-year plan, like the inklings of it, until 2026. I think that this whole thing with Crisis kind of confirmed our thoughts of like, oh, Keaton will probably only be Batman for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And just have a whole lot of cameos. And then, boom, we get a restart.
Mm-hmm.
I think it technically could still happen and us be like, whatever. But, like, I kind of want a better setup for Crisis.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing that not a lot of people probably think about. Crisis plays with everything DC.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it was in the comics. So, like, even if they do an actual reboot for this 10-year plan and all of our actors are recasted, when Crisis comes, they can put the big money out there and say, Ben, we want you to come back.
Yeah.
Keaton, we want you to come back. Cavill, we want you to come back.
Keaton be pushing 70 plus at that point. 10 years, you know? So
nothing but a good CGI character can't fix, you know?
That's true. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think the 10-year plan starts now involving the current stuff that we have. And I
Yeah.
think by Comic-Con, they will have laid out what they want to do. Nobody's going to believe it because we've seen plans before and they've never happened. But I think this going forward, this is the first time that Snyder's gone and he's, we're building off of different success stories that are movies and we're not going through a merger.
Yeah.
So here on out, things should be solidified and steady.
That's true, because even with Snyder, we were going through the AT&T stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they were wanting to have success off of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And WB, that makes a whole bunch of sense with now with Discovery and everything. So yeah,
I don't see unless Discovery goes up for money and Disney buys them, and we're just like, oh my god.
Oh, that also, I just want to go ahead and say now, because somebody mentioned it in my other podcast. Right now, WBD, you can buy a share for $13. It took a hit after the investors call.
Mhm.
It did. The stocks went down on WBD, and so I think that kind of like, I think the headlines were WBD stocks go down, investors not impressed.
Yeah.
Was the headlines that I saw, and I was like, oh shit, like hopefully I can save up some money and throw some money at WBD real quick and see, like, because honestly,
What did it drop? Was it like in the $20 range?
Right now it's 13.
But what was it?
When I checked, it was 14. So it must have been even lower than that.
No. I mean, like, they said it took a drop. So was it only at 14 or was it like in the 20s and dropped to like 14?
Oh, I can double check for you if I just go.
I'm just kind of curious about. I haven't checked stock like that in a really long time, just because I'm poor now. But like back when we were at our old job, like I was looking at stocks all the fucking time because I had the extra money to blow. But yeah, I don't know. Stocks with that kind of stuff, when something's already like at $13, it's hard to really make money off of it. Like unless you have money to blow. And then just like leave it there sitting to see if it's gonna pop off. You know what I mean? But I also don't think Disney would be able to buy Discovery in them. I think somebody else would come in. I think honestly, if anybody's gonna buy something like that, it's gonna be Amazon. I think Amazon would be the one to buy DC.
Oh, I could see that.
Yeah, because at this point, as much as the government is corrupt and shit, I just don't see somebody allowing DC and Marvel to be owned by the same company. You know what I mean? Now, if it that could have been a thing. Stan Lee offered it to fucking DC to buy all of Marvel back in the day, but they said, nah, we're good. And essentially, Marvel and DC could have been one whole universe, which would have been insane. But, that's not going to happen. But yeah, I don't see. I hope Disney doesn't buy them, is what I'll say. And I would love for Amazon to buy them because it's very clear Amazon don't care about the kind of content they put out. You know what I mean? With what we get with the boys, like, holy shit.
So it was at $24.
Yeah, that's a huge drop. That's $10. It's insane.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a huge drop. But it'll go back up. Like, it's just because of this whole Batgirl merger crap that everybody's like, we're kind of scared. It'll go back up. So, but yeah, if you got money to blow, maybe put some money into that if you guys are into stocks. I don't know, man. I think once they start popping out some movies, it's just they've been hit with a lot of bad shit right now. Like everything's been pushed back. They said that they're not going to release movies until they're done, which I think that's a positive. And I think people aren't focusing on that. Like you have Marvel animators right now being like, I fucking hate my job. Like my job is trash, dude. Like everybody's like, I would love to work on superhero movies. No, you wouldn't, because it fucking sucks, bro. Like, you know what I mean? And everybody's like, dude, DC and MCU, or not DC, but like Disney and Marvel they're so great. But it's like, dude, they're like, you're hearing about this in America when like you constantly hear this about like Japanese manga creators, right? Like they're getting run into the ground. Now you're hearing it because of the MCU, and things are supposed to be better here for creators. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, I've been seeing the memes of like freaking people hearing Fiege talk about phase 5 and 6 in the next few years, and like you see like people fucking like breaking their iPads and shit.
Yeah.
And like WBD is about to do the exact same thing. So like it's not like people can be like, well, I'm leaving to this studio instead. Like, no,
Yeah.
you're gonna run into the same fucking problem there too.
Well, but Marvel has a schedule. When was the last time Marvel pushed something back that wasn't COVID related? Never. I don't think. DC has. And I think DC has shown they care about how their movies look. Marvel doesn't. Marvel cares about putting shit out. That is their main thing. Marvel is not quality, they're quantity.
Yeah.
And I think DC is like, we can't afford to suck. Like, we just can't. So they have to put out the best product. And it doesn't mean that the audience is going to like it, but they have to make it look as good as it can. Because I will say, Aquaman looks fantastic. Like, for being a movie that's in water and shit, it looks great. Like, when Black Manta shows up for the first time in Aquaman, he looks so badass.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's what made me want to go watch that movie. When he fucking did that and shot the laser eyes, and I was like, oh my God. And at the time, I thought Amber Heard was super hot. Now she's crazy. But, like, I was like, yeah, Amber Heard, you know? She's still gorgeous, but she's crazy. So it knocks my interest in her way down. I would not want to get my pinky chopped off like Johnny Depp, you know? So she's crazy. But anyways, let's move on to Joker 2, which is, I don't know how this is going to work, but they're talking about Zazie Beetz coming back.
Yeah, so I was wanting to ask, where was her character at the end of the first movie?
Remember, he goes to her after he thinks that they're dating, and that's when when they reveal that he's been hallucinating.
So how does she fucking come back?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Does she go visit him in the asylum? Or I guess what we could do is we can get the perspective of, like, I used to live in the building with that guy. You know what I mean?
See, so that's because if she comes back, I think it will be either because they escape Arkham at one point.
Yeah.
And he goes back. Because
he could die. Harley could kill her.
Well, because like, what if, and it could just be flashbacks. Because what if Arthur is talking to Harleen and he's like, oh yeah, my old girlfriend, and then like Harleen gets jealous.
Oh, do you think we're gonna have Harleen, or do you think she's gonna be an inmate, a patient?
I think we're gonna get Harleen. That's what I still think.
I always pictured her as the patient.
Really?
Yeah. But now that he's probably killed a bunch of therapists, it would be interesting if she was. You know? Yeah, I never really thought about how they're going to do that.
Yeah. Like, because I could very much see there being a plot of, like, there being a Harleen Quinzel and then, like, the head of Arkham, whether it be Amadeus or not, be like, hey, this individual, like, we need to treat him, but he has already murdered one therapist. Like, you need to understand that he is very high risk, blah, blah. And that kind of sets the tone for what she thinks of Arthur as a character, and then see where it goes from there.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting because they can't really do, I don't think you do the mad love type of thing where Arthur, he's not the Joker that can manipulate people. You know what I mean? Not in the first movie, at least. I mean, if they show that he's changed over time, maybe. But I think you're going to have to go with Harleen falling for him. If this is going to be kind of a love story, which we assume it's going to be, falling for him because he has such a tragic story. Yeah. That's how she's going to fall for him. Not because he's like been able to sweet talk her the way we know Mark Hamill's Joker can. You know what I mean? So it'll be very interesting to see what happens for sure. But yeah, Zazie Beetz, she has to just be one of those supporting characters that is like, maybe the news is like, it's been 1 year since the Joker massacre in blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? and she's just viewing it as a person that knew the guy. You know, maybe she's going to a cafe to get something, and they're like, "Hey, Zazie." Yeah, I don't know I forgot what her name was in the thing, but like, didn't you used to live with that guy? And she's like, "Yeah, I try to forget." You know what I mean? Like something like that. I could see her, but I liked her in the movie, so I wouldn't mind her coming back. I just don't know where she fits. So there's that. Moving on to Idris Elba confirms DC projects in the works. What's the info on this? Because I don't know anything about it.
So it's very, very odd. He basically he kind of hyped everybody up by saying, "Oh, I have something big cooking up with DC."
Yeah.
And that's it. So
I heard that he wants to have a fight with Superman.
That's what the quote was, is that he wants it to be his origin story, which is he was the first person to be able to shoot Superman with a kryptonite bullet. I would not be opposed to that.
Yeah.
But I mean, we need to solidify who the fuck Superman is first.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the rumors that are coming out right now about that? Because it seems like so mixed.
So the big thing is, Umberto right? Is that his
Gonzalez?
Yeah.
The guy for the rap. I do not take much of what he says seriously. He's been proven wrong a lot.
He has been proven wrong a lot, but he has gotten every Blue Beetle scoop right so far.
Okay.
He's the one that breaks everything for Blue Beetle.
Wouldn't be surprised. Part of La Raza,
so him and Eric Davis from Rotten Tomatoes had a Twitter Space podcast this
Didn't
past
you comment
week.
on this, right?
Yeah, it was basically the thing that I noticed as soon as the conversation started. I was like, "Oh, this isn't anything big. You're literally having the same conversation all of us small podcasters have been having for the past week."
Yeah.
So whatever. But Umberto was saying that it seems like, quote unquote, Zaslav likes Cavill.
Yeah.
So that's the big rumor, and they're wanting to work with him to bring him back, but I don't know.
But I'm talking about the rumor that has come out that Cavill's not interested. I don't know if I believe that.
I kind of do, because what has WB before done to help him come back to the DCEU?
No, I agree with that, but it's new management. You know what I mean?
I understand, but like, burn me once, shame on me. Burn me twice, shame on you. That whole thing. And
I
like,
agree.
it would almost be the exact same thing with Snyder. Like, hey, you guys burn me big. There's no chance I'm coming back to you guys again.
Yeah.
Right now, I think I'm not gonna say Cavill like has it made, but I think he's comfortable right now. He's working on several projects with Netflix. He's making a movie right now with Dua Lipa, I think. And he has like one or two other projects in the works. So like, I think he's comfortable now. Would I love him to come back as Superman? Yes. Do I expect it to happen? No.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand it being like not having hope for it. But again, if it comes down to him wanting more money, I think at this point, DC doesn't care. Like Zaslav, I don't think has a problem with money now, like DC did. Because I think that's the reason why we were getting a bunch of low budget like movies, because DC saw how well Joker did on a low budget. So they're like, oh, we can make good low budget films. Like this is fire. Yeah. But I don't think Zaslav has that mentality now. I think he has we're Disney. We're going to be like Disney and we want to spend money. And if Cavill wants 10 million or whatever, I don't think he's going to get the 20 million, but if they're like, how about we meet in the middle? Like, we're going to sign you for a contract. You're going to get 15 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we'll go from there. But you're going to get Superman 2, Man of Steel 2, whatever. I don't know. I don't think they would call it Man of Steel. I think it would be Superman. Like, maybe they pull stuff from that first movie, or they just, I think they soft reboot. I think they just say, fuck Superman, because I think they want Pa Kent. I see that happening. I think we just get a soft reboot with Cavill still. We just, both of the parents are alive. And this would obviously be past or post Flash at this point. So you could just have Pa Kent back and just be like, oh, it's Flashpoint, and just go with that. And then you can tell a more happy Superman story, just him being a badass, you know?
Yeah.
And I think you go with that. But I think, you know, I think you can win Henry Cavill back. And I think he's like, look, we want you as Superman. We know back in the day, like if you just go to him, because you know he's a nerd, like he's made it very public. Like, who do you want to fight? Who's your villain? Like, if you were to make us be part of the Superman movie, who do you want to fight? And I think he said Brainiac a long time ago.
Yeah.
Done. We'll give you Brainiac. And then you just kiss up to him and make him come back. Because I think even the hardest Snyder fan goes and watches that movie. In my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
So
because again, any character that was connected to Snyder's universe or whatever is the one glimmer of hope they need for the return of Snyder.
Yeah. And fuck it, you just string them along at this point because they ain't gonna change their minds. So
yeah,
I think they can win Cavill back, and also they're still working with the Rock's agent, who is Cavill's agent, and they'll be like, "What do we got to do to get your boy back? Like, what's the deal?" And then she'll sweet talk him or whatever, and hopefully he comes back. But it's a good sign to hear that the studio heads have said they like him. That's a positive. So maybe now he's like, you know, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? Now it's in his ballpark. Because at this point, they can just say, like, we wanted him back. He just didn't want to be here, you know? And then you recast. And at that point, we know it was his decision, and I don't think anybody can be mad at that. So,
no.
And we move on from there. But for the final topic, what is all of this news about James Gunn, Harley Quinn project in the future, and then everything else he's working on? Because we kind of mentioned this previously.
So we know from just the past that James Gunn loves to do Q&As on Instagram and all of this stuff. So he had another Q&A, and somebody asked him, when's the next Harley Quinn project? And he did the emoji eyes, and everybody knows, oh shit, that means that he knows something. He's working on something. So just like we had assumed, oh, Gunn is probably going to be working on a Harley Quinn project soon.
Yeah.
Immediately after Suicide Squad. That's what we said.
Yeah.
This doesn't confirm it, but we are now assuming, okay, there's going to be something in there. Now, whether it be a solo Harley Quinn project, that'll be news to us.
Yeah.
You know, everything that Harley Quinn has been a part of so far has not been her own solo project. Yeah. It's always been somewhat of an ensemble cast. So that's going to be very interesting to see if Zaslav is cool with Harley Quinn having her own series or her own trilogy or whatever.
Yeah.
But I also think that Harley Quinn does work well with an ensemble.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I would prefer to have a solo Harley Quinn movie, to be honest. But I'm just like, what do you do? You know what I mean? If it doesn't involve Joker, what do you do?
I mean, you can
It'd be a good time to recast Joker.
Yeah, you know, recast Joker, but you can just do what the Harley Quinn comic does and just kind of go balls to the wall with it.
Make it Deadpool-ish.
Yeah.
You could. Yeah, and then just make her like her movies, are just when she's with an ensemble is when you take her serious, but her movies you don't. You know? Yeah. And like again, we didn't think Birds of Prey was the best. But there were moments in it look cool. It's just the story overall was fucking garbage, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think you just keep her to Gunn just handled her so well. So I'll watch anything he does. Because he didn't give her the crazy outfits in Bird of Prey that they were like, you know, I think the director was like, all right, it was whatchamacallit, maybe even Margot Robbie said this, but they said like the outfits and stuff felt more. I don't think she said like they're not for the male gaze. I don't think she said anything along that, but it kind of gave off the vibe like this is more of a feminine touch and those kind of shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was like, okay, I don't have a problem with that, but it just didn't really feel like Harley at times. You know what I mean? And Gunn just gave her fucking comic book accurate, good looking suit. You know, she was covered in that suit and she looked awesome. And I was like, that is dope. And so I would love to see more of that. And if Gunn is going to work with Margot Robbie, and I just think you build Gotham City Sirens at this point. I don't think you do anything else. I think you have a story where Harley is maybe looking for some new friends, maybe post Suicide Squad or whatever, and she's trying to hit up Harley Quinn, or she's trying to hit up Poison Ivy and, Catwoman. And I think you go from there. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like, well, we have Flashpoint. Anything can happen with Flashpoint, and you could bring back Black Mask if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
I think that would be kind of cool because Black Mask,
dude, James Gunn and Ian McGregor would be awesome.
That'd be fucking great. So I would love to see something like that. Maybe bring back a different Zaz. I didn't really like the actor they had for Zaz. But at this point, I don't think Zaz is that important. You can just bring in another C-list character, So Mothman. But yeah, so I'm interested to see what he would do with the Harley Quinn project. The only other news is that Peacemaker is confirmed to be safe for season 2.
Yeah.
Right? And then we still don't have info on whatever this other project is he's working on. But it seems like he's working on more than 2 things, is the vibe he's giving.
I mean, I would assume that other project is still the Amanda Waller thing.
Yeah, which we still have got no confirmation on. But he could be a part of the Bloodsport thing. We don't know.
I would assume that Gunn is a part of the Bloodsport thing, even if it's just a producer. I think that he is somewhat involved in that.
Yeah. So be very curious to see where it goes. But anything Gunn works on in DC, I'm excited for. I don't care about Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I have no interest in that. I have no interest in the Christmas thing that they're doing or whatever. I only care about what he's doing at DC because I love how Gunn can change up his mentality. And I know a lot of people were scared, like, oh, he's going to make Guardians of the Galaxy in DC, and we don't want that. I never got that vibe out of what we watched. Did not feel like that at all. And Peacemaker, like I said, Gunn made me like John Cena. So I can't go against him at this point because I disliked John Cena all the time. And now I like him, which that says a lot. Yeah. Like if you can win me over on something I didn't like, you're dope. Like I can't hate on you. So
yeah.
So I'm excited to see what he does. And I think we're still gonna have another month or so of people freaking out about what's going on at DC. But I genuinely think by Comic-Con we have some kind of layout. It doesn't mean we're gonna get footage like the way you thought we were gonna get it. I don't think we're gonna have footage or anything like that. But I think Zaslav and them are gonna plan out these new movies, especially if the rumors of Shazam getting pushed back and all these other movies getting pushed back even farther. I think they're only do that to add shit. I think that's the only reason. And maybe those are post-credit scenes, because if he is going to copy the Feige way, what did Feige do for that whole first phase? They were just movies with post-credit scenes. And if you just got to film something like that, you don't mess with the whole movie. You just film a new scene. And then bada bing, bada boom. And then everybody's like, oh my God, and we just go from there. And then, that's kind of how I see it. So anyways, like I said, we already recovered comic reviews, and that is basically this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Again, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, go over there, Batman News Weekly. It's Batman News Weekly podcast now, but if you type in Batman News Weekly, it'll pop up. But go subscribe. Help us get to the 1,000 subscribers that we need, and you can actually watch the podcast with some gameplay now. So go check that out. But Clay, what do you got going on this week, man?
So this week, if you go back to Star Wars Alliance this week, me and my co-host Katie talked about all of the Star Wars High Republic books that have come out. We ranked them. It's a good hour, 40-minute podcast. Take up a good amount of your time. So go check that out. Over at DC Alliance, we talked about just some of the stuff that was going on here with the investors call, some backlash to it and everything else. Nothing super big on that. Just all basically what we covered here. But on, I believe, Ranger Alliance is another show that I have, all a part of the same network, the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. Go check that out. We talked about the future of Power Rangers, of course, the Power Rangers Cinematic Universe, the 30th anniversary for Power Rangers coming out next year, and we think that we should be getting some news about that probably this month, because Power Morphicon is happening this year. So go check all of that out.
Nice. What Batman News Weekly better or worse than your other podcasts in viewer size?
In viewer size, I think Batman News Weekly beats 2 out of the 3. I think DC still has us beat, but I think you beat both Ranger Alliance and Star Wars Alliance.
Tell your friends, people. We got people to surpass. Are y'all talking about the Lego shit that did you see that article about the Lego things that kind of told what's happening post Rise of Skywalker that gave out hints?
No.
Yeah, so there's a Lego something that happened. I think I read it on CBR or whatever, but they were talking about the future of Star Wars movies where they were like, because we haven't got the Ryan whatever verse, right? Like that hasn't happened yet. And they're like, when are the new movies coming out? Because Star Wars should be a movie. Like that's what it should be. Like the shows are doing good, but it should always be on the big screen. And so they were talking about how we might have gotten a hint at what the future of the Star Wars universe might be. And it was these, I don't know what Lego character was talking to. It was talking to Leia's hologram, Lego version. Okay. And he was talking about how Rey has went out throughout the galaxy to find other like Jedis. Finn is doing his Jedi training. And Poe is training new X-Wing fighters. And so they were thinking that might be a hint at what the next like episodes might be if they ever release those movies. Because Daisy really ain't doing shit. Finn, John Boyega ain't doing shit. Although Oscar Isaac's got a lot of shit lined up. But, the other two ain't doing shit right now.
It's very convenient that that this story is coming out because Oscar Isaac recently said, well, if there's a good story and a good director, I might come back.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Or money. I want Oscar Isaac to do the Metal Gear movie. That's the only movie I care about him being in right now. Because I want the Metal Gear Solid movie to come out. But, and that was the one role he said he wanted out of anything. And he got it. So I'm waiting for that to come out. It's by the director that made Godzilla, I think.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. So he's all into big monster things. But he's also apparently that guy's got 2 really good franchises and he hasn't done shit with them yet. He's got Gundam and he's got Metal Gear Solid. And I'm like, when are those going to come out, bro? Because those are 2 things I would like to see. How there has not been a live action Gundam movie blows my mind. So pretty crazy shit. In America, I should say. There's probably one in Japan. I've never looked. Yeah. But like not on the scale of Transformers. Anyways, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Again, go subscribe to Batman News Weekly. By the way, this is going to be my last live stream on my YouTube channel. That YouTube channel that has Gotham Flash is dying. It's over, ladies and gentlemen. This is the last week. R.I.P. I'm done with Gotham. I'm done with Flash. I'm starting a new chapter later this year. That content is going to be very different. It ain't going to be comic book related. Everything comic book related is going to be on this podcast. So go subscribe over there. But that channel, I will be doing a final live stream on Saturday, which will be, this is going to drop on a Thursday. If you're in America, if you're, in the future, well, then it's probably Sunday for you. But going to be doing that on Saturday. If you guys want to come by and check that out. And then, subscribe to my reaction channel because that is going to be the content going forward until I launch the new channel, which that's going to take a while for me to get a hold of all that jazz. But that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. As always, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne. And remember, Batman is awesome.
News Weekly.